I will discuss about inter-VLAN routing. So what is inter-VLAN routing? So in last class, we have know that VLAN stands virtual local area network, and it is used to divide LAN into multiple segments. But in inter-VLAN routing is a process for forwarding network traffic from one VLAN to another VLAN using a router. So as we know that VLAN trunk allows you to communicate between two or more same VLAN on different switches. Same like this, inter-VLAN routing allows you to communicate between two or more completely different VLAN in the same switch or other with the help of layered device router. So in inter-VLAN routing, there are three types of different OS. Okay, so in inter-VLAN routing can be configured in three different OS. First one is legacy or traditional method. Second one is a router on a stick method, and third one is inter-VLAN in layer 3 switch method. Okay, so first one is legacy or traditional method. So in this picture, we'll discuss how the traditional method is done. So this is an old method and not in use nowadays. In this method, we need a separate physical interface for each VLAN. For example, if there is 10 VLAN, then your router must have 10 physical ports to configure inter-VLAN. So for this reason, it is also cost effective. Okay, so in this picture, there are two VLAN, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. So there are two connections. Okay, so there are two connections to the router for legacy or traditional method. So next one is a router on a string method. So what is the router on a string method? So a router configuration in a single physical interface routes traffic between multiple VLAN on a network is called a router on a stick. So this is the latest method, and nowadays every network administration using this method. This method allows you to create sub-interfaces on the single port of a router. For example, if there is a 10 VLAN, then unlike traditional method, you not need 10 physical port on a router. Instead of this, you can add all the VLAN in the single port of a router itself by creating virtual sub interfaces. Like there are in this switch there are two VLAN, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, and another switch there are also VLAN next VLAN 10 also VLAN 20. So there are multiple VLAN, but there is a connection is one. So we can this connection we can make the interface in virtual sub interfaces. Okay, so in router and stick method is very useful because router administration is used nowadays for cost low cost method. Okay, so next is inter-VLAN in layer 3 switch method. Okay, so this method allows you to configure inter-VLAN routing in the switch itself. Why? For this you need layer 3 switches. Okay, so we have already read that a layer 2 switch is in use for data link layer, and layer 3 is switch is used in network layer. So this method allows you to configure inter-VLAN routing in the switch itself, but for this you need layer 3 switches. You cannot configure inter-VLAN on layer 2 switch. So let's move to the practical. Okay, so we have to open a Cisco packet tracer for doing practical. At first, we will do traditional method or legacy method. Okay, so at first we have to write the note. Inter VLAN routing using traditional method. Okay, so you have to configure the picture. So at first we have to for inter-VLAN routing we need a router also. Then we take a switch. for creating VLAN, and we have to take to PC. Okay, so you have to connect the PC to switch through connections cable. So you have to use the straight cable to connect PC to half switch. Okay, then we have to connect through a router to a switch because there are two VLAN. So we have to at first write. Okay, so this is a VLAN 10, and name sales, and this is for VLAN 20, and the name is admin. Okay, so there is a two VLAN, so you have to connect switch through a router. We have to connect two connections because there are two VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. You have to take the connections two. Okay, so done. Then we have to write down the IP address also. Like this is a so there are router. There is a two interface. So we have to give the two IP address also 10.0.0.1, and we have to use the same range of IP address 10.0.0.2, and this is for 10.0.0.3. And there is also interface. We have to give the command address 20.0.0.1, and we have to give the IP address for PC same range. Okay, so next we have to set the IP address in all PC. So go to the PC, we have to set IP address, subnet mask, and also default gateway. So what will be the default gateway for this VLAN 10? The for VLAN 10 for these two PCs, the default gateway will be this interface IP address like 10.0.0.1, and that for this VLAN the default gateway IP will be 20.0.0.1. So let's move to the PC. Click on it, go to desktop, then go to IP configuration, and you have to give the IP address 10.0.0.2 F, then IP address, then default gateway. Next, desktop, IP configuration, and we have to give the IP address 0.3, subnet mask, and default gateway. Then we have to go to another VLAN PC, desktop, IP configuration, and we have to give the command 20.0.0.2, then subnet mask, then default gateway. Okay. Next, go to another PC, desktop, IP configuration, and put the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. So IP address has been done. So okay. So next, go to the switch for configuration. You have to give the command through CLI command line interface. So select the switch. Go to CLI mode command line interface, and we have to write the command enable, then config t. Okay. Then we have to give the VLAN name, also VLAN ID, also VLAN name. Okay, so then VLAN 10, enter, and the VLAN 10 name is sales. So name sales. Okay, Next, we have to give the exit command. We have to exit. Then go to another VLAN, VLAN 20. So VLAN 20 and name is admin. Then exit. Then we have to configure the VLAN. So in this picture, FA0Y1 and 0Y2 in the VLAN 10. Okay. So you have to give the command int range FA0Y1 hyphen 2. Then you have to give the command switch port mode access. Then this port FA0Y1 and 0Y2 means these two pieces are in VLAN 10. Then we have to give the command switch port access VLAN 10. Enter. Then we have to give the exit command. Then go to another VLAN. So there are two pieces also FA0Y3 and 0Y4 each port. Okay. So we have to give the command int range FA0Y3 to 4 switch port mode access, then switch port access VLAN. Then you have to give the VLAN ID. Okay, so there is a VLAN 20. You have to give the command 20. Okay, then exit. So there are also two port FA0Y5 and FA0Y6, like two connections. We have to give the also command. So int FA0Y5 switch port access VLAN 10. Switch port access VLAN 10. Then you have to give the command spanning tree port first. Okay, so we have to give the command spanning tree port first, then exit. Next, go to another port int FA0Y6. So this is in another VLAN. So switch port access VLAN 20. Then we have to give the command spanning tree port first. Okay, so our configuration is done in switch. Okay, so we have to go to the router. Okay, so next go to the router and go to CLI mode, and first we have to give the command no en, then conp. Okay, so there are two interface FA0Y0 and FA0Y1. So give the interface FA0Y0, give the IP add 10.0.0.1 space, give the subnet mask. So this is the class A IP. So you have to give the class A default subnet mask 255.0.0.0. Then you have to give the command no cert for up the interface. Okay. Then exit. Go to another interface FA0Y1. So int FA0Y1 IP add 20.0.0.1. Then give the subnet mask. Okay. then give no set. So our basic configuration is done. Okay, so we have to check our internet routing is done successfully or not. So when we ping from one for VLAN 10 pieces to VLAN 20 PC, when ping is coming, when ping get a reply, so we think we thought we will know that the internet routing will be done. Okay, so go to VLAN 10 PC, go to command prompt and write ping space the VLAN 20 IP, any IP like 20.0.0.3, enter. When the reply is coming, so our inter-VLAN routing will be done. So the reply is coming, so our traditional method is done, inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so go to another process, router on a stick method. We have already read that. At first we will write inter-VLAN routing using router on a stick method. So this will be the practical. So for this practical, we have to need a router also. So we have to need this router. Then we have to take the switches also. We will create two VLAN and each VLAN have two PC. Okay. Then we have to make the connection through straight cable. All PC will be connected to the straight cable. Okay. Then we have to connect cross cable router to switch, because in this switch there are gigabit Ethernet port, so you have to take crossover cable. Okay, so at first we have to give the IP address. Also, we have to write the VLAN also. So like this is a IP address like 192.168.1.1, and then 192.168.1.2, 192.168.1.3, and there is also gateway IP 192.168.2.1. Then we have to IP address 192.168.2.2 and 192.168.2.3. Okay. Also, there are two VLAN also. So in these two pieces are VLAN 10, like VLAN 10, and this name is student, and this is VLAN 20, and this is name is teacher. Okay, so our configuration is done. So then we have to go to each PC and select IP, subnet mask, and default gateway. Okay, so there are two VLAN, and but there is a one connection with router or switch, because in a router on a stick method there are one interface, but we can make it virtual sub interfaces. Okay, so there are two VLAN, so we can make it two virtual sub interfaces. Okay, so there are also for each virtual interfaces, you need two IP address. Okay, so go to this PC and desktop IP configuration and give the IP address 192.168.1.2, then subnet mask, then gateway 192.168.1.1. Done. Go to another PC of VLAN 10, desktop, IP configuration, and give the IP address 192.168.1.3. Then give the subnet mask, and then default gateway will be 192.168.1.1. Next, go to another PC of VLAN 20 and select and put the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. So IP address will be 192.168.2.2, and then subnet mask will be 255.2.2 because there is a class C IP. Next, default gateway will be 192.168.2.1. Then go to another piece of VLAN 20, go to IP configuration, and the IP address will be 192.168.2.3, and then 192.168.2.1. Okay, so our basic configuration is done. We have put the IP address, submask, and default gateway. So let's move through the switch. We have to give the configurations also. So click on switch and go to CLI, PN, then write conp t, then enter. Then we have to we have to give the VLAN name and VLAN ID and VLAN name. So first one is VLAN 10, VLAN space 10, name is student, then exit, then go to another VLAN, give the command VLAN 20, name teacher, then exit. So there are two VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. So under VLAN 10, there are two systems. So two systems port is FA0 by 1 and FA0 by 2. And under VLAN 20, there are two ports, FA0 by 3 and FA0 by 4. So we have to write the command int range FA0 by 1 to 2, switch port mode access. Then we have to give the command. So FA0 by 1 and FA0 by 2 in under VLAN 10. So you have to give the command switch port access VLAN 10, exit, go to another VLAN. So in VLAN 20, there are two PC VLAN. Okay, so uh, int range FA 0 by 3 to 4, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20. Okay, so our basic configuration is done. So also there is a port FA0 by 5. Okay, so give the comment int means interface. Okay, so int fa 0 by 5 switch port mode trunk, then exit. Then we have to save the command also. So go write the command end, go to privilege mode and give the command wr or save the configuration. Okay. And next we have to go to the router. Okay. So go to router, go to CLI mode and we have to write the command, write no, then press, then conf. Okay. So, so there is a port gig 0 by 0. So we have to write the command gig int gig 0 by 0. Okay. Then we have to give the command no shut or up the interface. Okay. So we already read that in router on stake method we have to create. So there are two VLAN. So there is one interface. So in this in this router we have to create two virtual sub interfaces. Okay. So you have to interfaces. So int gig 0 by 0.1. So 0 by 0 is common and 0.1 when it will be 0.1. So for 0.1 this will be a virtual sub interfaces. Okay, enter. Then we have to give the command encapsulation dot 1q and so 0.1 is for upper VLAN. So we have to give the VLAN ID also VLAN 10. Enter. Okay, so we have to give the command ip add IP add. So what is the IP? The IP is 192.168.1.1. So 192.168.1.1 space the seven marks, the default seven marks of class C. So 255.255.255.0. Okay. Then we have to give the command no set. Exit. Then int gig 0 by 0 no set and create also number two interfaces virtual two interfaces. So int gig 0 by 0.2 for VLAN 20 and have to give the command encapsulation dot 1q space 20. Okay, and we also add the IP add. The IP will be 192.168.2.1. So write down the IP 192.168.2.1 space 7 mask 255.255.255.0 then no set. Then we have to give the command end or go to close mode and for save we have to give the command wr. Done. So for check our practical is done. So you have to check our Inter-VLAN routing is successful or not. So go to PC VLAN 10 PC and go to command prompt and we have to ping the another VLAN PC like 192.168.2.3. So our reply is coming. So we have done our practical successfully. Okay. So next is and the last method is layer 3 switch. Okay, Inter-VLAN routing using layer 3 switch. Okay. So go to another new. No. So for Inter-VLAN route, at first we have to read Inter-VLAN routing. using layer 3 switch. Okay, so this is the last practical. Okay, so for this practical we need a layer 3 switch. So go to switch devices, and there is a switch, and this is a layer 3 switch. So this is a layer 3 switch, and we have to and we will add two VLAN. So for VLAN we have to add in devices like PC. Okay, and then go to another site. Okay, so have to connect through cable. So we have already read that in inter-VLAN routing we have to use a layer 3 switch. So this is the layer 3 switch. So through this layer 3 switch we have to inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so we have to select VLAN also. So write down the VLAN. So this is a VLAN, like, and this is VLAN 20, and this is the name is like school, and this is a VLAN 30, and the VLAN name is college. Okay, like campus. Okay, and also we have to add the IP address also. So the default gateway will be 10.0.0.1, and this IP will be 10.0.0.2, and this IP will be 10.0.0.3, and the IP address or and for this the default gateway will be 20.0.0.1, and the IP will be 20.0.0.2, and the IP address will be 20.0.0.3. Done. So next we have to select IP in each PC. We have to select IP address, certain mask, and default gateway. Okay. So go to this PC, first PC, VLAN 20, desktop. Then we have to select IP configuration. So give the IP address 10.0.0.2, certain mask, and the default gateway will be 10.0.0.1. Go to another PC and go to desktop and give the IP address also 10.0.0.3. So this is the server mask, and we have to give that default gateway 10.0.0.1. Okay, so uh, this is the system desktop and 20.0.0.2, and gateway will be 20.0.0.1. Then go to another PC, go to desktop, IP configuration, and we have to give the IP address 20.0.0.3, mask, and we have to give the gateway also 20.0.0.1. Okay, so we have done our configuration. So we have to give the command also for inter-VLAN routing. So go to layer 3 switch, click on it, and go to CLI command line interface and click on it. So there is a questions, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? So you have to write the yes. Then there is also questions, would you like to enter basic management setup? Yes. Enter host name. Like the host is data space security, data space, and enter enable secret, the secret like secret password, Cisco. Enter enable password like 12345 6. Okay, and enter virtual terminal password like 654321. Enter. So there is also questions in configure SNMP network management. So you have to write the no. Enter. Then you have to press Control C. Then enter. Then we will go to the terminal. Okay. Then press EN and we have to write the command conf. Okay. So we have to give the VLAN name also. So VLAN 20 name school. Exit. Go to another VLAN. So VLAN like VLAN 30 name campus. Then exit. So now we have to configure the VLAN. So in VLAN 20, there are two interfaces, FA0 by 1 and FA0 by 2. So we have to add the VLAN. Okay. So int range FA0 by 1 hyphen 2. Then switch port mode access. Then we have to write the command switch port access VLAN 20 because there is a VLAN 20. Enter. Then exit. So go to another interface FA0 by 3 and 0 by 4. So int range FA0 by 3 to 4. Then we have to give the command switch port mode access, and this is in VLAN 30. So you have to write the command switch port access VLAN 30. Enter. Then exit. Okay. So our basic configuration is done. So then we have to give the command for Inter-VLAN routing. So you have to give the command IP routing. Then you have to give the command interface VLAN. So this is VLAN 20. So VLAN 20. And we have to add the IP also. IP add 10.0.0.1 space subnet mask. Okay. Enter. Then we have to give the command no shut. Done. Then exit. So our VLAN 10 configuration is done. So next go to another VLAN. So I have to give the command IP routing. Okay. And this is for interface VLAN 30. Interface VLAN 30. Then we have to add the IP. IP add 20.0.0.1, the default gateway IP, and have to give the subnet mask. Exit. Then no shut. Done. then exit. Then we have to go to the privilege mode for save the comment. Okay, so our practical is done. So you have to check our practical is successfully done or not. Okay, so we have to ping one VLAN 20 to VLAN 30. So go to PC VLAN 20 PC and go to command prompt and write the command ping space like 20.0.0.3. Okay, enter. So the reply is coming. So our practical is done successfully. Okay, so this is the inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so we have done our inter-VLAN routing. Okay, so our practical is done.